Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We've got several important topics to talk about. We're going to begin here by talking about COVID and what the numbers look like. And as I think you all know by now, the COVID numbers have been going up. The pandemic task force yesterday, for those of you who watched the pandemic task force, they made this point, which is that we really have very few levers to pull on in these increasing numbers. But the one that we do have to pull is mask wearing. And I know that most of you are wearing masks, but we need for everybody to wear masks, inside, outside. It's pretty much the only lever to pull, short of pulling back on business openings. So let me give you what the numbers are. As of yesterday, the city of St. Louis had 71 new cases. The day before it was 44, 64, going back here, 83, 63. So still high, still higher than we want it to be. We had 250 people in the hospital yesterday in the region with confirmed COVID cases. Again, that's on the high end of where we've been here. 55 people in ICU, 29 people on ventilators, all with confirmed cases. Now, one of the things that you know we're really watching is how many people are admitted to the hospital each day. Yesterday, that number, which it's a 2-day lag, so yesterday was Tuesday, so on Sunday there were 35 people admitted to the hospital, on Saturday 41, and we won't know for a little while today what the number was for 2 days ago. So our average number of people being admitted to the hospital, 7-day rolling average, is right now is 36 people in the region. Talking specifically, though, about City of St. Louis cases, there's a statistic that I think is an interesting one, and that is since July 1st, so 3 weeks, the 61.5% of the people who have had positive cases in the last 3 weeks have been under 40. So 40% over 40, 61% under 40. So that's what we're trying to work through right now. For those of you that weren't with us on Monday, you know that we did send several letters, cease and desist letters, to various bars. Excuse me for 1 minute, I need to get a drink of water. Sorry. So the moral of the story, I just had I'll give a little plug here, a big Gus's pretzel with a bunch of salt on it. So it's giving me a little trouble here. So anyway, 61.5% of the people in the last 3 weeks have been under 40 that have been diagnosed or tested positive for COVID. So we know that young people are sometimes feel invincible, but we also know that when they are positive, they can spread it to older people. So very important that everybody be wearing a mask everywhere. We're going to post, and maybe we just did, the pandemic task force charts for the last couple of days. This is one that'll go up, and this shows you COVID hospital admissions. And you don't have to read it, you just have to see the swoop here of admissions going up. So wear a mask, socially distance, so that we can send this trend back in the other way. You know, we've only had a mandatory mask order in St. Louis City and County for 2.5 weeks now. So There is no mandatory mask order in our surrounding counties, though, and we're a very fluid society. So if everyone would just wear a mask, we are hopeful that here we are 2.5 weeks in, that maybe we'll begin to see a downward turn based on the effect of having everyone wear masks for the last 2.5 weeks or so. So we're still working on that, and we need your help to do that. That's COVID. Let me talk about a couple of other things. Two things. One is virtual court. So for the municipal court in the city of St. Louis, you can now have your have a virtual court session over the internet. You can appear for your citation in an online virtual courtroom without a trip coming to 1520 Market, which is where municipal court is, or without a physical appearance in the courtroom. So you can go online, it's on our website, and you can sign up for a virtual court time. Now, why would you want to do that? One, you don't want to have to come to 1520 Market because you're busy or because you're at work. Two, because you don't want to be around a lot of people. And so what is this used for? I guess this would be used for, let's say you got a speeding ticket. I hope you didn't, but we've all had them, right? But you want a court date about it. You would use that would be a municipal court violation, and you would use this virtual court session. So this is pretty easy. We're just beginning it. But you can sign up for virtual court. You can also pay if you want to pay your fine. And again, sorry, but you know, we know these things happen. You can also do that virtually as well. And this is a real, this is a credit to our municipal courts here to have implemented this under pretty quick conditions. Because of COVID. And so, you know, if there's anything good to come out of COVID, maybe it is some of the new methods of doing things that we're all being forced or have been forced into doing. And sometimes, you know, that's the mother of invention, having to do these things. So virtual court for municipal court issues. And again, sorry if you got a speeding ticket or other sort. All right, the last thing, before I take questions, is to talk about mail-in and absentee ballots. So today, the reason we're talking about this today is that 5 o'clock today is the deadline for having your application into the election board. This is all over the state of Missouri, by the way, not just the city of St. Louis. You have to have your application there by 5 o'clock today. So you got about 3 hours, not quite 3 hours left. You can't mail it at this point because obviously it won't get there. But if you want to put in an application for a mail-in ballot or for an absentee ballot, the deadline's today at 5 o'clock. So let me tell you just a little bit of stuff that you might need to know about that. If you apply for a mail-in ballot, then they'll mail it to your house and you must mail it back. Through the U.S. mail, and the mail-in ballot has to be notarized. Now, an absentee ballot, and this is a little confusing, many people are eligible for an absentee ballot without a notary. And that is if you're over 65, and this is because of COVID. If you're over 65, if you've got an underlying health condition, if you live in a long-term care facility, if you're immunocompromised, all of those kinds of things, you don't have to have a notary. So the deadline for getting that application to the election board in the city of St. Louis, the election board is right over here at the corner of Tucker and Olive, and you can stop in there this afternoon, is this afternoon. Last thing I want to say about that is that you can vote absentee in person at the election board up until the day before the election, which the election's August the 4th. So you can walk in as if you're in a polling place. And if you're going to be out of town, if you're ill, if you're a poll worker, you can walk into the election board between now and the end of the day on August the 3rd and go to a voting booth and vote absentee there in person. So we'll talk more about that as the next couple of weeks go by. But Election Day is 2 weeks from yesterday. And so a lot of important issues on the ballot, including Medicaid expansion, including a number of primaries in many offices. So don't miss your opportunity to vote. I mean, that's how we resolve our differences in this country, and that is we do it at the ballot box. So don't miss your opportunity to do that. All right, one last thing that I wanted just to mention briefly, and we'll talk more about this as time goes on. But a few of the things that we're working on here in the mayor's office and with the Department of Human Services and the Health Department, et cetera, are, I told you a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago by now, that I had made an amendment to the budget to take just a little under $1 million out of the corrections budget and put it into a program called Cops and Clinicians. Cops and Clinicians means that you use mental health worker, social worker, to go with or to follow up with individuals who have 911 calls where normally our police officers would respond to and still respond to, but they really aren't situations of a crime, and they're not situations where someone needs to be taken to the hospital. There's situations where people need social workers, need mental health workers, need referrals to treatment programs. And so we are working right now to launch, we've done 2 pilot programs on cops and clinicians, easy for me to say. We've done 2 pilot programs last year, and so we're getting ready to launch this as a permanent program for this year. So you'll hear more about that later. It's just something that we're working on. There was a meeting on it this morning. I wanted to bring you up to date on it because I do think it's really important that we recognize that not every call to 911 requires a police officer response. And so we're really working to try to figure out that diversion and to figure out what professional is the best to help that individual who's in crisis, because you only call 911 if you're in crisis. And so what professional is the best professional to help meet the needs of that resident at that time? So we're working forward on that. Okay. Questions? I'm looking here to see if I forgot to talk about anything, but I'm sure there'll be a question if I did.
We have a couple of elections-related questions since you brought it up today. Erica is asking Mayor, she has family members, high risk of COVID, like respiratory issues, over the age of 65. Did you mention, her question is, does that qualify as a reason to get a mail-in ballot without a notary?
It does. It's an absentee ballot that you would get, and you would not have to have a notary. But you do have to have the application for the absentee ballot into the election board by 5 o'clock. So if you can't do that, if you can't take your application there, then you can go to the election board, take your loved one, and take them to the election board and let them vote absentee there.
The other election-related question comes from Kyle today, Mayor. Do you happen to know if, because of COVID-19 or any other reason, if we've had to reduce the number of polling places to ensure the safety of people?
Thanks for that question. And that reminds me, I wanted to say this and I forgot about it. So Kyle, there are now 99, let's just call it 100, but there's 99 polling places in the city of St. Louis, separate physical locations. And there's always some that move around a little bit, and you'll get that on the card that you get from the election board as to where your polling place is. Most of them stay the same. But tomorrow, the election board is doing a demonstration for the media about what it will be like, what will in-person voting be like on August the 4th. And So we're hopeful that the news media will all cover that tomorrow so that it can be available to everybody. But essentially, it's a demonstration of, so what happens when you walk through the door, you register. If you don't have a mask on, you'll be given a mask. You'll be offered hand sanitizer. That's the first step. Then second step is everybody's got to be wearing a mask. I think I said that. But you got to wear a mask. You got to wear it the whole time you're in there voting. Where you would actually go to vote, how you would put the ballot in the ballot box, or if it were electronic voting. So it's just all of the steps that the election board is taking to make sure that everyone can vote safely on August the 4th and be safe with regard to COVID. So there's 99 polling places. As you probably know, some polling places have more than one precinct that votes there. So, you know, precinct 10 might vote over here and precinct 11 over here, but still it's at one physical location. And so the election board is prepared for that. It's possible it may take a little bit longer, just because, you know, you're going to have a mask and do all that sort of thing. So.
Two more COVID-19 related questions, Mayor. Becca is asking whether the city can or is at least considering reopening playgrounds. She points out that there are a lot of cognitive and physical benefits associated with playing on playgrounds.
Is that Becca?
Becca.
Becca, you're right. There are a lot of cognitive and physical benefits to playing on a playground. But we are not thinking of opening them right now. You saw the map a little, or the chart a little earlier showing the number of cases going up. We do think it's really important that kids get out and run around, and but we don't think right now that it's a very good idea for them to be playing on playground equipment, because it's not possible to clean it between kids, and you know kids, I mean, they're gonna lick the playground equipment, you know. And so we think that while playgrounds are really important, it's just not the time for it right now.
Is the city of St. Louis considering any further restrictions because of the increase in cases and hospitalizations?
Well, we're always considering that. We're always looking at it. That's why we look at these numbers every day. That's why we talk about these numbers every day. And that's why we continue to harp on the fact that the only lever we really have here is mask wearing in order to turn the number of cases. Mask wearing, social distance, and hand washing. That's really it. And keeping your circle small. You know, I had a friend of mine yesterday who let me know that she had tested positive. Now, I have not been around her. But, you know, she was keeping her circle very small, doing the hand washing, mask wearing, etc. But she was with a close friend who happened to come down with COVID because they were exposed through a relative. And so keeping that circle small is really important. It just lowers your opportunity. And you know, you've seen in the news, I'm sure, that COVID's everywhere. And how do we know that? Because we see restaurants and public spaces that say we're going to be closed for, we don't know for how long, for a few days or for a week, for cleaning and that sort of thing, because we had an employee who had COVID. You're seeing it all over. Just a few days ago, there were 5 or 6 restaurants that announced that we're gonna close for a few days. And so you got to keep your circle small. Be outside. Being outside still is considered to be better than being inside. So we're always considering what to do, and right now we have not made a decision to close down any sectors of the economy yet, and we hope we don't have to.
So we have questions on other topics today, Mayor. We had quite a few people write in about the situation in Portland, Oregon, and asking if you, or if there are any conversations at all about asking for federal agents or actively working to keep federal agents from coming into St. Louis to address protests.
So, you know, I know that has been a big question, And Public Safety Director Judge Jimmy Edwards and I have been talking about this for the last couple of days. There's a couple of things to point out here. One, we work, and our police department works every day with the FBI, U.S. Marshals, ATF, DHS, U.S. Attorney's Office. And we do that, and we will likely even do that more for their help in terms of trying to help us stem the violence, reduce the shootings. You know, our homicides are up 30% over last year on this same day. So we have relationships and good relationships with our federal partners, and we want to maintain those. That said, we do not need and we don't want federal troops in camouflage here intervening in the peaceful protests that we've had. So we've had those conversations, we've had them with our federal agencies and with our federal delegation. And so I think that's similar to what you're seeing with major mayors around the country.
We have a question from a downtown resident. I think his name is Payne. He lives at 4th and Spruce on the topic of crime, since you brought it up, Mayor. He says he's never seen so much street racing, gunshots, fireworks, drag racing, cars broken into in between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Wants to know what residents and police can do to try and stop this kind of activity. So
4th and Spruce, I know right where that is. And we've made some changes there with regard to narrowing down the street, 4th Street in particular, which is a northbound street. Broadway is 5th, and it's a southbound street. But as you probably know, since you live there, we've made some changes in the streets. We also have our mobile reserve and special teams out on the weekend to stem that, because obviously this fast driving and drag racing, whatever you want to call it, is dangerous and it's illegal. We have towed some cars, we have made some arrests, we will continue to do that in order to stem this illegal driving and racing and all that sort of thing. So it's a matter of both enforcement from law enforcement side, as well as making some physical changes to narrow down the road. You see that we've done that on 4th Street at about Spruce there in front of the, I call it the Pet Building. It used to be Pet. We've done that there. We've also done it on the riverfront, and we've also narrowed down and removed parking on Market Street from 5th, which is Broadway, from about Broadway to 7th Street. So we're making changes in both areas. The best thing is for us to have more good activities going on downtown, but the fact that we don't have ball games right now, we don't have baseball or hockey, and we don't have as many folks on the street doing good activities, it leaves these streets, which are pretty big and wide. And so we're continually working on that. Our police department is on it all the time. I don't know if you've been on some of the emails, or we've had several meetings, virtual meetings with downtown STL and a number of the people who live near there. So as we try to stem this behavior.
Sarah's question, Mayor, and she asked that you could please address this on your next Facebook Live. Okay. Citizens of St. Louis have already voted on reducing the number of aldermen. Why should we possibly vote again? It feels like someone doesn't like the first outcome.
Well, I think that's exactly right. You got that. You're right on the money there. So back in 2012, I was a sponsor, one of the primary sponsors on the bill that put that on the ballot in November of 2012. The voters of St. Louis voted 61 or 2%, I think was the number, if I remember correctly, to reduce the number of aldermen from 28 to 14. And it was to go into effect after the next census, which would be next year after. And so you're right. Some folks think that there should be a do-over on that vote. And I would just encourage you, is it Sarah? Sarah, I would just encourage you to talk to your alderman or your alderwoman about that. I don't know what ward you live in, but be sure to communicate your thoughts on that to your alder person, so that they know the way that you feel about that.
Tish is watching, Mayor, and says, "Hi, Mayor Crewson. Do you have any updates on Cure Violence? Thank you."
Yeah, hi Tish. So Cure Violence, one location is up and running full steam, and that is Wells Goodfellow, Hamilton Heights. The other two locations have been awarded. Dutchtown has been awarded to Employment Connections. That was just about a week or 10 days ago. So they are in the process of hiring and beginning training. It should be up and running in early August. And then the third location, which is in Walnut Park, was awarded to the Urban League. And again, they are hiring, they'll begin training and get up and running in early August.
We did get a question submitted about school in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
SLPS has announced their three-pronged approach for going back.
Mm-hmm.
Do all public school students have to go back to physical school? I think this person means like physically in the building.
In person. I don't believe that they do. So I know SLPS announced yesterday or the day before that there would be a combination of in-person and virtual learning available to students, and of course that really means to parents who have to make these very difficult decisions. I believe what they announced is that they were hoping that school would start on the 24th of August. That's over a month away. And I would just say to parents that, one, stay in touch with your school, stay in touch with the Board of Education website, and be prepared maybe for changes. I know there are discussions in many school districts. They're trying their best to put out the best information they know today or yesterday to parents, because parents want to know, and frankly they deserve to know. But what none of us know is what these cases are going to look like then, and how schools are going to be able to operate by keeping kids safe. I think most people think that in-person classroom is preferable if it's healthy. Got to keep kids safe, you got to keep teachers safe, you got to keep staff in the school safe, and all that's just a really big decision for these superintendents and these school districts to make. And we're going to know more a week from now, and we're going to know 2 weeks from then. And I know that as a parent, I don't have little kids anymore, but I can't imagine how disruptive that is, because you've got stuff you need to do. You're probably going to work, and you need to be able to plan for that. But unfortunately, this trying to coexist with COVID is making it really tough on all of us to plan. So stay tuned on that.
All right, it's 2:30, Mayor.
Okay.
The last question, it's a lighter question, so I guess we could end on that.
Okay.
What does Mayor Crewson think the name of the new MLS team should be?
Oh gosh, don't ask me that. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen. You're not supposed to ask me surprise questions, Jake. I think that, MLS is the first game has been put off 1 year until 2023. And I believe it's on August the 13th, so not quite a month away, really more like 3 weeks away. They're going to announce the team colors, they're going to announce the team name, and I'm not going to weigh in on that one. We're all just going to have to wait. So you all can chime in on the Facebook comments or the Twitter comments if you'd like about what you think the name should be, and we'll make sure that we forward that on over to the team. So thank you all so much. Thanks for being with us today, and I hope this was helpful. Don't forget about your voting and wearing a mask. Thanks.